You are about to witness an ICE agent in Broadview fire repeated rounds of projectiles in the direction of photojournalists who are trying to document a takedown of a man who was screaming that he couldn't breathe this past Saturday.
Without provocation and acting like jackbooted thugs, ICE has attacked and detained members of the press, including an independent journalist.
In Broadview, we've documented several instances where federal officers fired chemical agents into the crowd, striking anyone in their sights, including members of the media, repeatedly.
And he shot right here. You can see the point of impact right there.
She captured this image here at the moment right before the agent shot at her car.
And I was sitting right there with my window open. A lot of it went inside of my car and on my face. I immediately felt it burning. I started throwing up.
One of our CBS photographers found her afterward on the side of her car, vomiting and gasping for air.
We're seeing that ICE just doesn't give a damn. And neither does the President of the United States. He's doing nothing to intervene to make it better.
Hi, this is Robert Wilkins, a.k.a. Basketball Tall, your BT dispatcher, bringing you news and commentary with a different flavor. Today, I've got some great information for you. It's right off the press, and we're talking about temporary restraining order. And that the lawsuits were filed by the state of Illinois and, of course, the city of Chicago. This is interesting. So instead of me saying anything, let you watch it right off the press. That's being reported by Michael Popak with Legal AF, including with Midas Touch. This is interesting. You want to stay tuned for this because how else are you going to be informed unless you're watching a program like mine, baby? Stay tuned.
No se toque la cara. Don't rub his face.
That's what the Judge Ellis, an Obama appointee, is trying to stop. And it's a message to all of the other federal judges and the Court of Appeals up in the Ninth Circuit who are looking there from on high, suggesting that Donald Trump, because something happened in June, he could send in the National Guard, federalize now, and put troops on the streets. When you put military troops on the streets that aren't trained for local and domestic law enforcement, bad things happen to other Americans. And that's what this judge is trying to stop. But I'm not done with the long list of things that can't be used based on this temporary restraining order. This is like Civil War, the movie. You got to wear a press vest to facilitate the defendant's identification of journalists protected under this order. The following are examples of indicia of being a journalist: visual identification as a member of the press, such as by carrying a professional press pass, badge, or credentials, wearing distinctive clothing. Other indicia of being a journalist include not engaging in chanting, sign holding, shouting slogans, or otherwise protesting. In other words, let's separate out the journalists from the protesters. Of course, the protesters have the right not to be pepperballed in the face as well. So this is going to stay in place for 14 more days until this Judge Ellis has an opportunity to hold a full preliminary injunction hearing.
It's happening in America. It's not a pleasant thing to see. You know, I remember it was about securing the border and prices, food prices. We are into a whole new arena. I know somebody can say, well, that's what it's going to take to remove them. No, I believe in law and order. I believe in due process and how things should be done decent and in order. This is extreme. And to watch this is unbelievable. And then, not just that, civil war? We don't want civil war. Not in these United States when everybody's got weapons. That would be the worst civil war ever known to man, ever in existence in the world. Think about it. Let's not create organizations such as a resistance like we always watched in the movies. It's happening before our eyes, folks. So how can we change this? Hey, I'm a Bible believer. And it says if we repent and return from our wicked ways and humble ourselves, then God said he will hear our prayers and he will heal our land. But it's going to take a effort on everybody's part to make that happen. So the likelihood, based on history, how things have always developed, and in college, history was my minor. It always took tragedy. It always took invasions, captivity, death to turn everything around. Sure hope that doesn't happen here. But it seems like we're heading in that direction because there's good and bad forces on this planet. And we look at also throughout history, it took the people uprising in a real violent way to suppress wrongdoing and the evils of the world.
Devices, right? Electronic control weapons on members of the press, protest, or religious practitioners. We've got clips, folks, from Chicago that were used as part of the record for this particular case. Let's show the clip of the member of the clergy in full gear, his own full gear, getting hit with pepper spray. Let's show that. And that's not the only one. We got a journalist who was hit in her car by a pepper ball and other people being taken down on the streets. Let's roll those clips.
Meanwhile, Illinois State Police are investigating after a federal agent fired a projectile at the car of one of our reporters.
The incident happened in Broadview, and that's where our investigative reporter Dave Savini is tonight. Dave?
Joe and Erica, journalists are here on a daily basis just trying to document what's happening here, but federal agents have been repeatedly firing projectiles at them. Yesterday, they fired into a moving car, which was being driven by one of our reporters.
You are about to witness an ICE agent in Broadview fire repeated rounds of projectiles in the direction of photojournalists who are trying to document a takedown of a man who was screaming that he couldn't breathe this past Saturday.
Without provocation and acting like jackbooted thugs, ICE has attacked and detained members of the press, including an independent journalist.
In Broadview, we've documented several instances where federal officers fired chemical agents into the crowd, striking anyone in their sights, including members of the media, repeatedly. But on Sunday morning, about a block away from the detention center, it was a quiet scene. No protest at the building itself. Just after 11 a.m., when one agent fired a projectile at a moving car, driven by our reporter, Asal Razai. Her window was open.
And you'll hear me multiple times have to clear my throat as I inhaled a lot of some of the powder that you saw here.
The projectile struck her car and exploded, sending a chemical powder through her open window.
An ICE agent that was masked pointed his weapon and shot directly at my car. He saw my window was open.
A CBS Chicago correspondent had chemical munitions fired at her car where there were no protesters in sight.
The ICE facility is here. Helicopter footage from our Skywatch shows you Asal was struck over here in this lot, where there are private businesses and where we saw people driving in and out all day long.
And he shot right here. You can see the point of impact right there.
She captured this image here at the moment right before the agent shot at her car.
And I was sitting right there with my window open. A lot of it went inside of my car and on my face. I immediately felt it burning. I started throwing up.
One of our CBS photographers found her afterward on the side of her car, vomiting and gasping for air.
We're seeing that ICE just doesn't give a damn. And neither does the president of the United States. He's doing nothing to intervene to make it better.
Now, the Department of Homeland Security says no CBS reporter was attacked, but they haven't answered any of our other specific questions about this incident. Live in Broadview, Dave Savini, back to you.
Will we get through this? Will America prevail in goodness and honesty? You remember that? The Lone Ranger and all the shows we watch. The good guy always win. That's encoded in our DNA since the beginning of time. Righteous throughout history, since the existing of this planet, the rule of law, righteousness, honesty, dignity, the truth prevails, hasn't it? Tell the truth. You know it. Come on now, admit it. It has. And now we're faced with a situation, folks, that's never been recorded in world history. I'm an ex-cop. And when you think about police in general, you know, there's been some cultural developments, but we've evolved a whole lot. The rule of law really rules for most of us, most people that's in that profession. But I don't think, in my opinion, we are ready for the military because there's too many guns in this country. And so far right now, as a law-abiding nation, that's why things haven't been blown up to this point, because of the rule of law. Plus, we got the most powerful military in the world, you know. So a military going anywhere is going to get order, no matter who's at the helm. But it's how you're using that military. It's how things have developed and come about. And by the way, history, I was a history minor in college. World history, all of that, American history, you know, Oklahoma history, all that kind of stuff. And so I've always paid attention to what's going on, you know, the developments of the world, especially in my hometown and state, domestically, country. So do you think we're in a national crisis right now? Do you think ICE, law enforcement, is overstepping? They're just doing lawless stuff punitively, intentionally, willfully. When you're down shooting at people, pop, 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 and then you hit anybody in the head. But in this case, it just happened to be a guy of the cloth, or, you know, a preacher, you know, a reverend, whatever, bishop, whatever. Priest got hit in the head, and boy, you can see that, boo. You know, that had to have cracked his skull, because it is like a bullet. It just happened not to be the lethal kind, but then again, you get hit in the head. I don't care, even non-lethal weapons, that still can possibly kill you. I'd like to know what that minister, his condition is. If anybody knows, drop a chat. Let me know. Make a comment, please. We know when you're doing wrong. And what we're seeing right now, folks, come on, you got to admit, the goodness that's in your spirit, you know that's wrong. You know it's wrong. And they are allowing it to happen. Actually, it's intentional, because nobody's going to do that like that unless you're getting orders from above. This is what I want. This is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to gain control. And it's working. But one thing about the United States, we're supposed to be the land of the brave. I just have this feeling, guys, that if this does try to become a monarchy, you know, a dictatorship, how are the majority of the Americans going to respond? That's the scariest part. That's the part we don't want to know about. But we got to do something, and the courts is ours seem to be last battle, because the military seems to be in control. This is, to me, hey, guys, my whole life is about right and wrong, good and bad, you know, good guy, bad guy. That's been my career. obeying the law, obeying my God, reading my Bible. Because when you're in law enforcement, you don't know that might be your last day. Dealing with come across some bad guy, because there are people that are intentional that will shoot you, and especially if they don't like the blue. But this is interesting. Michael Popak, that's what he shared. That's how can we overlook what's happening? This is real. It's affecting us. Don't worry, at least the gas down low. Think about that. And but dang, look at this meat, this high as hell. But people say that, don't they? I know. I've been around a lot of folks. I've been a cop. I've been in law enforcement for 30 years. So you see a lot when you're dealing with people. But it's all interesting what's going on right now. And I think watching the news article about what we see what's happening in this country today, the greatest country I've ever known, ever. I know no other country. I don't know what tribe or country I actually descend from. I can do the genealogy DEA thing and give me a little lineage, partial lineage over to Nigeria, and that's for my sons. He had his done. I haven't done mine, so I know. I was talking with my other buddy Slim, and we're both from Louisiana, and I told him, man, I think we're from the same tribe. Even though I was from Monroe, they're 100 miles apart, and he said he had his done, and he's got some Nigeria in him. I said Kenya, but I meant Nigeria, in my sons, and Slim's also got Nigeria. And so, but still, because of being an American, African Americans in the United States, we cannot claim as a heritage where we actually descended from. We can't. So we are the Americans. Think about it. We are the Americans because we know we can't link to any other country. We can't say we're from Australia, England, Norway, Switzerland. We can't say any of those things. Ukraine, Poland. We can't, Italy. We can't even say any of those things. India. We can only claim the United States of America. And you know what's molded African Americans and made us become what we are today? Our laws. LAWS. Robert Wilkins, your BT dispatcher. Go ahead, give me a thumbs up, baby. And also go ahead and subscribe so that way you'll be informed on any and everything that I post. And I'll see you next time.